Part 1. The 53-Year Silence. History has a way of repeating itself, but sometimes the repetition is hidden behind a wall of silence. For over 5 decades, the moon remained a ghost, a barren rock that we conquered once and then seemingly abandoned. Since 1972, humanity has confined itself to low Earth orbit, tethered to our home planet, staring at the lunar surface through telescopes and robotic eyes. We told the world we were done with the moon. We told the world it was too expensive, too dangerous, or simply not worth the effort. But on April 1st, 2026, the silence was shattered. At 6:35 p.m. local time, at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, NASA's Space Launch System rocket ignited. It wasn't just a launch, it was a 53-year-old promise finally kept. 4 pioneers, 3 Americans and 1 Canadian, strapped into the Orion capsule, renamed Integrity, and rode a pillar of fire into the void. This was Artemis 2. The first time a human crew had departed Earth to visit our celestial neighbor in more than half a century. But what is the real story behind this return? Is this merely a scientific mission, or is there a geopolitical and perhaps even an existential desperation driving us back into the lunar dark? Today, on Vantage Elite, we go beyond the PR-friendly broadcast to uncover the technical nightmares, the eerie discoveries on the far side, and the terrifying reality of life inside the Integrity. Part 2. The Explosive Risk, the FTS Incident. Let's talk about the launch. To the public watching the livestream, it looked flawless. A perfect descent into a clear Florida sky. But inside the mission control rooms, the tension was at a breaking point. Minutes before the countdown reached 0, ground crews were staring at red flags from the Flight Termination System, or the FTS. For those who don't know, the FTS is not a navigation tool. It is a string of high-grade explosives rigged to the main fuel tank of the rocket. It is a self-destruct mechanism. If the SLS booster, the most powerful rocket ever built, were to veer off course or lose control, the FTS would be triggered. The rocket would be vaporized mid-air before it could pose a risk to the populated coastlines of Florida. Imagine being an astronaut sitting on top of that controlled explosion, knowing that a single sensor error could turn your mission into a funeral pyre. The FTS chatter delayed the launch by crucial minutes. While NASA later dismissed it as a faulty sensor, it served as a chilling reminder. The SLS is a beast that hasn't been fully tamed. It has been plagued by hydrogen leaks, helium failures, and massive budget overruns. The Integrity was sitting on top of a machine that many insiders feared wasn't truly ready for the human cost of space exploration. Part 3. The Crew and the Global Stakes. The 4 individuals on board were more than just pilots. They were symbols. Mission Commander Reed Wiseman, Pilot Victor Glover, and Mission Specialist Christina Cook represented the American vanguard. They were joined by Jeremy Hansen, the first Canadian to ever participate in a deep space mission. But the international nature of Artemis 2 ran deeper than the crew. The service module, the heart of the spacecraft that provides power, propulsion, and life support, was a German-made marvel, contracted through the European Space Agency. The mission was a testament to integrated power. The name Integrity was chosen to reflect this union. But integration brings its own risks. If one component, designed thousands of miles away from the main assembly, failed in the vacuum of space, the mission would end in tragedy. As the Integrity rose 100 miles above the surface, the booster engines fell away, and the crew found themselves in Earth orbit. But their journey was only beginning. Before committing to the moon, they had to perform a full systems check. And that is where the glamour of space travel met the cold, hard reality of human biology. Part 4. The Toilet and the IT Blackout. Space travel in the 21st century was supposed to be a massive upgrade from the Apollo days. The Apollo astronauts famously had to deal with their business in plastic bags, a messy, unhygienic, and demoralizing process. Artemis 2 was equipped with the Universal Waste Management System, a high-tech space bathroom. But within hours of reaching orbit, the system failed. A suction fan malfunctioned, rendering the urine hose useless. Imagine being part of the most expensive mission in history, traveling 250,000 miles into the void, and having to resort to what NASA calls a collapse contingency urinal, which is really just a fancy term for peeing in a bag. Then came the IT issues. The crew found themselves locked out of their official NASA email accounts due to a Microsoft Outlook glitch. Even in the depths of space, human bureaucracy and software errors are inescapable. These might sound like minor inconveniences, but in an environment where every ounce of morale matters, these glitches highlighted a terrifying truth. We are still remarkably fragile in the face of the cosmos. Part 5. The View from 100,000 Miles. Hello, world. On April 3rd, at a distance of 100,000 miles from Earth, the crew performed the trans-lunar injection burn. This was the moment of commitment. They were now on a free return trajectory, a path where gravity would act as their invisible navigator, swinging them around the moon and hurling them back toward Earth. During this slow transit, the crew captured a photograph that has since become iconic. Hello, world. For the first time in history, we saw our planet in a single, high-resolution digital frame. Most images of Earth are composites, stitched together from satellite data. But Hello World was raw. It was real. The light hitting the night side of the Earth in that photo wasn't from the sun. It was moonlight, reflecting off the lunar surface and filling in the shadows of our home. It was a perspective that reminded the crew of their isolation. Behind them was the warmth of humanity. Ahead of them was the cold, scarred mystery of the lunar far side. Part 6. The Far Side and the Hidden Craters. Artemis II traveled further from home than any human crew in history, over 252,000 miles. As they swung around the moon at an altitude of 4,000 miles, they saw the entire lunar globe fill their windows. To Wiseman and his crew, the moon wasn't the flat, gray rock we see from Earth. They described hues of brown, patches of faint green, and towering, jagged peaks that defied description. But the most significant discovery happened on the boundary between the near and far sides. The crew spotted two previously unidentified craters. They proposed naming one Integrity and the other Carol, after Wiseman's late wife. These bright spot craters were the result of recent cosmic impacts, kicking up fresh, light-colored dust from beneath the surface. Christina Cook noted that these impacts looked like holes poked in a lampshade. This observation is vital because it proves that the moon is not a dead world. It is a world under constant bombardment, a world that is shifting and changing even as we watch it. Part 7. The 40-minute blackout. The most haunting moment of the mission occurred as the Integrity rounded the far side, often mistakenly called the dark side. Because the moon always faces Earth, the far side had only ever been seen by satellites. But as the crew entered this region, they witnessed the Oriental Basin, a 600-mile-wide scar that is nearly 4 billion years old. As the moon passed between the Integrity and the Earth, all communication was severed. Laser-based signals cannot penetrate the lunar mass. For 40 minutes, the four astronauts were the most isolated human beings in the universe. No mission control, no family contact, no safety net. They were alone in the lunar dark. What happens to the human psyche in that silence? While NASA reports that the crew stayed busy with experiments, the reality of that 40-minute blackout is a reminder of the great void. We are guests in space, and the moon is a wall that can cut us off from our origin in a heartbeat. The Earthrise and the Eclipse. When the Integrity finally emerged from the far side, the crew witnessed a modern Earthrise, our blue marble rising over the lunar horizon, just as the Apollo 8 crew had seen in 1968. But Artemis II offered a new celestial wonder, a total solar eclipse viewed from behind the moon. From that vantage point, the moon appeared significantly larger than the sun, causing the eclipse to last an incredible 54 minutes. The stars and planets became visible against the black lunar landscape. This was the definitive answer to moon landing conspiracy theorists who ask why stars aren't visible in photos. When the sun is out, the glare hides the stars. When the sun is eclipsed by the moon, the universe reveals itself in all its terrifying glory. The fire and the plasma blackout. The journey home took another 4 days, leading to the most dangerous phase of the mission, re-entry. The Integrity capsule hit the Earth's atmosphere at 32 times the speed of sound. This wasn't a landing, it was a collision with the sky. As the capsule compressed the air molecules, the temperature outside the window soared to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The air transformed into plasma, an energized state of matter that conducts electricity and blocks all radio waves. For 6 minutes, the crew was once again in total silence, trapped inside a screaming fireball. The structural integrity of the Orion capsule was pushed to its absolute limit. Decelerating at 4G, 4 times the force of Earth's gravity, the astronauts were crushed into their seats, praying that the heat shield, the most critical component of the ship, would hold. The Pacific splashdown and the recovery. At 5:07 p.m. local time, the parachutes deployed, and the Integrity made a perfect splashdown off the coast of San Diego. But the mission wasn't over until the crew was out. A final technical glitch occurred. The crew could hear the recovery teams, but the recovery teams couldn't hear them. For a few agonizing minutes, the capsule bobbed in the Pacific as Navy rescuers circled, unsure of the status of the heroes inside. Eventually, the hatch was opened. Fresh air rushed in, the first non-recycled breath the crew had taken in 10 days. They had traveled nearly 700,000 miles. They had survived the void, the blackout, and the fire. The blueprint for the future. Artemis 2 was not just a flight. It was a scouting mission. We're going back to the moon not to plant flags, but to stay. NASA's next goal is the South Pole, a rugged, complex region where ice and permanent shadows hide the resources we need to reach Mars. We are expanding our civilization. We are building a gateway. But as we look at the footage of the Integrity returning home, we have to ask ourselves, are we ready for what we find in the lunar dark? History is no longer a lie agreed upon. It is a future we are actively carving out of the stars. The moon is no longer a destination. It is a mirror, reflecting our own ambition and our own fears. We have returned, and this time, we aren't leaving. Stay skeptical, stay awake, stay elite.